Well, just saying a few words of introduction about Angie, my lovely friend. I actually can't remember how long I've known Angie. It's a long time, and she's become a very good friend. And I just want to say that Angie lives, well, now in Elsenham, which is sort of near Stansted. And, you know, she's had to be very dynamic and committed to follow her Buddhist path by travelling. Angie has done a lot of travelling up and down roads to get to Cambridge, also to Hertford. And, you know, she's really pursued her Buddhist life in a very, very committed and dynamic way. And also I was lucky enough to co-lead some Mitra study for Hertford with Angie. And I really found that the Dharma jewel shines extremely brightly in Angie's life. And the last thing I want to say is that I hope most of you, if not all of you, will be back sometime, maybe it's October, where we say goodbye to Angie as she goes on her ordination retreat. And also welcome back whoever Angie's going to be.
Thank you, Padmajata. To take a breath before I can speak. I clearly am, or I'm going to be, one of those people that bursts into tears at the drop of a hat. Okay, I don't know whether to sit down, because sitting down feels a bit more friendly, or stand up, because I'm concerned about, you're saying stand up, Rob? I'm a bit concerned about those of you at the back. First of all, can you hear me okay? Can I ask something of you, which is, my voice is usually quite quiet, so it might drop, and if it does, can you give me a little wave, please, and then I'll try and speak up. I don't like standing at this lectern, really, but anyway, here we are.
You can remove the lectern if you want, Angie, if you'd rather get.
I think I might stand to the side of it, actually. It has a flavour of giving a lecture, which is not what this is about. Okay. So I gave the talk a title. And I called it Turning Hatred into Love, the first steps into a work in progress. Because, you know, it's huge, isn't it? And what can I have done? You know, a little scratch on the surface by now, maybe. But I also want to dedicate this talk, and I want to dedicate it to Virya Jyoti, who will be my private preceptor. I have learned and am learning so much from her. I'd also like to dedicate it to my Kula, because they've been with me on this journey as well. So Padmajata, Sanghajata, I'm not sure she's here, and then there's Anavaja, who is in Colchester. We don't do this alone, so all these people are on the path with me, and I'm really, really grateful to them. So, a teaching which has inspired me, on which I've been reflecting, and I've written, with which I've been practicing. It's more like actually I've been grappling with it over many years, is verse 5 of the Dhammapada. Not by hatred are hatreds ever pacified here in the world. They are pacified by love. This is the eternal law. And for the sake of completeness, I'm just going to read the whole passage, which is verses 3 to 6. Those who entertain such thoughts as, he abused me, he beat me, he conquered me, he robbed me, will not still their hatred. Those who do not entertain such thoughts as, he abused me, he beat me, he conquered me, he robbed me, will still their hatred. Not by hatred are hatreds ever pacified here in the world. They are pacified by love. This is the eternal law. Others do not realize that we are all heading for death. Those who do realize it will compose their quarrels. And I think the reason that resonated with me so much is that I value harmony. I really, really value harmony. And I wanted to work with that to do my part in harmonious relationships. I first heard the quote during Mitra study, Dharmapada on the Dharmapada in 2012. And my first thoughts at the time were that I could immediately see the truth of that. It's self-evident that hatred begets hatred. You only have to look in the world around you and, at all the wars. So it seemed obvious to me that retaliation only leads to retaliation and escalation of hostility. So I thought, yes, I see that. I see that hatred cannot be pacified by hatred, and therefore it can only be pacified by love. And then I stopped and went, but how do I do that? Because at the time, if it actually felt like, but I am being abused, but I am being beaten. That just seemed very true. So I didn't really know how to go about it. So the obvious thing to do was to cultivate the opposite. In other words, cultivating metta for anyone I was experiencing difficulty with. And there was a crucial bit missing from that. But at any rate, well, I'll come back to that. So, aiming to replace the hatred, which could be anything on a spectrum from mild irritation right through to murderous hatred. I think on that spectrum, what I'm talking about is irritation, ill will, aversion. Trying to turn that into love, which I'm thinking of as friendliness, empathy, understanding, and just letting it go, letting the whole thing go. Aiming for a more open and expansive state rather than the tight, closed down feelings of ill will. So I tried cultivating metta for anyone to whom I felt ill will. And it worked to a degree. I did become more friendly, more open, more loving, but not enough really to work effectively and deeply with ill will. And I think that had to do with my metta practice at the time, which was very willed. It was quite like what Maitri Siddhi at Taraloka would call trying to squeeze the metta out of a toothpaste tube. That's how it was, very willed, very heady, and so I think it was quite superficial. And what I hadn't realised at the time was the centrality of mind in all this, my mind. And I wasn't in the practice. There I was, trying to sort of generate metta for anyone that I was feeling ill will towards. But because I was left out of it, in a sense, I think there was still sort of like a subtle, maybe a subtle sense of blame still in there, even though that's what I was trying to do. So it had some effect, but yeah. So what really began to change the way I relate to my hatred was a deep harmony retreat at Tiratnaloka in 2022. It was led by an order member called Suchin Amasa. And what I realised on that retreat was that I was looking at conflict with other people as us being on our separate mountains. So here am I, with my thoughts and my feelings and my views, and here's somebody else with their different thoughts and feelings and views. And what I couldn't see was how to bridge that gap. So when Suchinamasa said, you need to climb down from your own mountain and climb up the mountain of the other person in order to engage with empathy with the other person while still staying in touch with empathy with your own feelings and needs, I went, oh! And suddenly there was a way of bridging that gap with empathy for both of us. And also on the same retreat was a quote from Marshall Rosenberg, which was, you never need to hear, hang on, I've lost it. You never need to hear attack or reproach because the other person is coming from their own pain. And again, oh, I don't need to take it personally. So both these things have enabled me to learn to climb down from my own mountain and move towards people with whom I'm experiencing difficulty with empathy for us both and a sense of curiosity about what is going on. What is going on here for us both? And this helped us start, or to, a little bit more on the path of loosening feelings of ill will and being more loving, growing to be more open. On a Satipatthana retreat with Prasada Vati in 2020, she gave a talk about working with aversion. And she was talking about her own practice, and she said, there's a safety in judging the person to whom we feel the aversion. Can you not hear me, Rob? A bit louder. Okay, thank you. There's a safety in judging the person to whom we feel the aversion, which is less risky than turning towards what's going on for ourselves. So it's safer to judge others than turn to what's going on for us. She said that what she learned to do was to unhook from the source of her aversion and really turn to what she was experiencing, not what was triggering it. That was the whole story. But what does it actually feel like? Letting it be known in awareness and then holding it in tenderness and kindness. I kept the talk, it felt very relevant, but at the time I wasn't in a place to practice with that. That receptive awareness has only happened more recently. So for the last year or so, my metta practice has become more receptive. Just being in the body, bringing myself and others into awareness and noticing what comes up in me, what is the Vedana, what is the mind doing? And then taking responsibility for my own reactions and trying to hold them in tenderness and kindness. Again, I think, it's all little kind of bits, isn't it, about loosening that ill will and that aversion. And I'm going to talk about this receptive open awareness in relation to my next door neighbours. I live in a semi-detached house. And, semi-detached house, right? Got a fence in the garden, that's about that wide. So I'm living a hair's breadth from my next door neighbours, literally a hair's breadth. And we're very, very different people. So, Yeah, so what I would like in that situation, I would like sort of friendship, neighbourliness, openness with the people next door to me. We're living so close. But my neighbours don't seem to want this. They don't appear to want to engage with me. They'll engage with me via Facebook Messenger. To my mind, you know, there's a barrier in that. So I'm not getting what I want, basically. And that led to stories, and it's led to me trying to make them wrong and me right. The ill will isn't overt. I don't say anything actually to them, but it's there. It's there, and it has an effect. So practicing receptively with metta enabled me to realise that what I'm feeling is a contraction, a turning away. And actually, because that's in my mind, it can get translated out into my interactions with them. And there's also sadness. I realised, oh, what I wanted was connection. So, and there's not that ease between us. So I can only try to accept that they don't want the friendly neighbourliness that I want for whatever reason. I don't need to know what that is. I can have compassion for all of us, for whatever leads to their apparent sort of cut-offness, and for myself, who wants to connect with others. And I can just let the whole thing, the whole story, I can just let it drop. I can just let that go and be with what is. How am I doing for time, Anita? All right, I've got time for a bit more. Okay. Because the other thing I've realised that I do is I can do a good job of self-hatred, actually. In the way that I talk to myself sometimes, I'm not always kind to myself. There's self-hatred in there. And it needn't be huge. It can be quite subtle. I'll give you an example. I've just come back from a solitary retreat for Trasta. And I took quite a lot with me. And the following morning after I'd arrived, I realised I was berating myself for the amount of stuff I'd taken with me. And I was giving myself shoulds, you know, like what I really should be able to do is fling everything into a bag and just go. So I was talking to myself as if bringing a lot of stuff on the retreat with me is wrong. And to just fling things in a bag and go would be right. And I can see that there would be a freedom in just being able to fling a few things in a bag and go. You know, but I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. It's simply how I do it now. So feeling that ill will to myself has an effect. There's a tightness there. And what I can do, realising I have that tendency, is to treat it with gentleness, to treat it with kindness, to treat it with self-compassion and love. That's just what I need to do right now. So finally, a few words from Padmavajra. These are from a talk given on this subject at Padmaloka in 2007. He says, we can think in terms of understanding that being harmed is what happens in this world. We live in a world where, unfortunately, people can and do treat each other badly. It's part of the unsatisfactoriness of life. We need to shift to a place of forgiveness, not of the person, but of life itself. What did we expect? Well, actually, I expected. Not, yeah. So now I'm continuing to work with letting ill will go, being curious about what's going on in me, trying to become aware of what's going on in my mind, trying to bring compassion and kindness to that. Realizing that I'm hurting myself with feelings of ill will, and that what I really want is freedom. Freedom of the heart, both towards myself and towards others, rather than the tight, contracted state of ill will. Continually practicing receptive metta. Continually a work in progress. Thank you for listening.